We're gonna call this plan board meeting and the historic board. Historic board will come second. It is now 6:30. Let us all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, Christie, if you'll give us a roll call, please.
Okay, this one works. Brad Riddle,
Here.
Tim Bolliger,
Here.
Rick Testa,
Here.
Mark Bertacci is absent, and Steve Tapanis.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at last month's minutes on March 18th?
Yes.
Yes. Motion for the approval of those minutes.
I make a motion we approve minutes from March 18, 2024.
No second.
I forgot we did roll call for that. Tim Bolliger,
Yes.
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 Yes. All righty, new business. First item tonight is SIP 23000008, Saddle Ridge Estates construction documents.
so this is, as you said, the construction documents for Saddle Ridge Estates. That's at 30 subdivision in the south part of town. This is just the construction documents, so later on afterwards you will see the final plat coming forward. No issues with this one, we do recommend approval.
Okay, Christie, I have one question, and on the very front of the documents on the construction plans of Saddle Ridge, over under the general development information, under 3D and E, they need to change D, city staff. City of High Springs contact is Ashley. She's no longer, that needs to be changed. And then E, the contact was Bruce. That needs to be changed as well.
Understood. I will have them relook at the cover page and update contact info.
Do we have somebody from,
Oh, as the applicant? Yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
applicant should be here somewhere for Saddle Ridge. If he wants to come on up and you guys can ask him questions.
good evening.
Chris Potts with JB Pro. We're here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Chris, I only have one,
Okay.
and if I remember from the last set of drawings, wasn't there some fire protection in there? Some
Yes.
type?
So what we worked out with the county is because of our mileage to the fire station, they're going to bring a water truck.
Okay.
So we worked out a compensating deal to make sure that there's a water truck available.
That answers my question. That's what I thought.
So I got two questions. Lot 6 and Lot 7, they're already in the low area over there. Are they gonna be floodplain lots?
No, those will be filled accordingly to drain to the stormwater ponds.
Okay, because the topography already is bad there.
Yes.
That's
So
like
when
the
they
natural low for that whole area, even properties around it.
Correct. So when they come in to build the homes, they'll have to fill them.
And then I had, the horse trail, is it raised or what's the elevation of it?
It'll be at grade. So it's more, it's more for just kind of a natural feel through it. So it'll be, some areas may be raised, some will be at grade, some may below, but it'll
I just
be,
worry at Basin 2, and then where it dumps into the Basin 2C. It comes
Yes.
through there, which is already low. I know there's a 36-inch pipe. You're gonna connect them.
correct. So that area, I mean, once the grading of those ponds are finished, then the trail will just be on top of the natural grade.
And then I don't have the other one in front of me, Lot 1. I think it's Lot 1 on my notes. Track 1. It's, no, it's down here in the bottom. It's right
Yes,
here.
down at the very bottom. So that area is gonna be just left open in common area, recreational area for the homeowners in the future.
Okay,
The intention is that right now, until the subdivision gets built out, it'll be pined. So they'll grow some pines like they did before, with the hope in the future, maybe do a horse stables or something over there for the community if
but
they
what
like.
is the access to it? There's no real defined access to it other than right along the retention pond.
So there's an area right along the retention pond, and then at the end of the cul-de-sac to the east, there's an easement, access easement, south of lot 12.
12.
Correct.
And how wide are those?
20 feet.
I worry if that becomes a barn or something, is 20 feet enough for emergency vehicles to
That
get
is-
in and out of there?
That's the minimum.
So,
It's 20 foot wide.
okay. I think that was all my questions so far.
And this is the letter you attached that we were referencing with the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the gentleman. Is this considered an equestrian community?
That
Technically?
is part of the thought process and I guess you can say the marketing of it.
Yeah?
But it doesn't have to be. Like they're, with the size of the lots, and just the area, they have had a few folks interested in having the ability to have horses.
Yeah.
So they wanted to give something for them to, for the community. But, if you buy a lot and you don't have any horses, that's fine too. It's not like a requirement that you have to have horses.
The reason I asked the question is my understanding with equestrian centers is there's a lot of different types of insurance that are required to, have horses, ride horses, so, if anything happens. So is that something that it's an HOA process, or have you
So.
worked that out, or it's,
That's still kind of in flux. It really depends on who is the entity that owns and facilitates any of that. If it's the HOA, then yes, the HOA will have to have the proper insurance. But that'll obviously be part of the dues that the homeowners pay.
so it's in flux, you say, that hadn't been, you guys had seen this previously, so this entire project, is it fenced in? Are you familiar with the boundaries?
I don't think. it
We
was
didn't see
bad.
that.
No, there's no,
The other
no
problem.
gates or anything like
The
that.
other problem I've seen with equestrian centers, and horses are great, wonderful idea. If you don't fence the entire property in and you have a trail, a horse trail that runs around the perimeter of a piece of property, kids like me, when I was a kid, would take their motorbikes and whatever else, because there's this nice trail going around a large piece of property. So I have a lot of questions. This is the first time I've been really able to study this project. I've just had a lot of questions about the problems, the logistics, and the liability concerns of an equestrian center. I don't think that's been brought up. And
Well, it's not an equestrian center.
It's in flux.
It's a subdivision. And that is an amenity that they're potentially giving to the residents that live within the development. So the horse trails, they may not turn into horse trails. They could just be pedestrian trails or pathways. I mean, it all depends on how the subdivision is built out as residents come in.
Yeah, I got you when you mentioned that. Thanks. Thank you for being
Yes.
patient. That's all I have. Thank you all. Anybody? Thank you.
I mean, to reiterate what he was saying, I understand where he's coming from in a sense of the liability factor, when it comes to because horses are large animals. So I get where he's going with that. We just have to make sure that if we do have these animals out and about, that they're either self-insured, the homeowners themselves, or somewhat of that neighborhood. But at that point, that's out of our hands anyway.
Yeah.
That is true.
But I understand where he's coming and his concerns are.
Yeah, if this was a traditional Aquarian center with all that, they would have it as far as a business. But again, it's a subdivision, which that is just a thought. I mean, they could have, cows or, other farm animals, and not necessarily horses.
Is this gonna stay private, or is the city taking the streets over?
They're private.
Okay, and no water and sewer here?
That is correct.
Correct. Well and septic, okay.
Yep.
So there's a minimum of 5 acres in here?
No, 2 acres, 2 to 5 acres.
Gotcha.
I don't have no more questions.
I'm good.
That's all we have for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? All right, I need a motion.
I need a number.
There you go.
I make a motion, we pass SIP 23-000008.
Second.
Rick Testa,
Yes.
Steve Topanis,
Yes.
Brad Riddle,
Yes.
Tim Bolliger.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All righty, the next item on the agenda is SIP 24-000001, air liquid site plan.
So this is a commercial site plan. As you know, a while back, there was the building that blew up. So they are, instead of replacing it with one building, they're splitting it into 2 different buildings. There is some information that will have to be provided, by them to us to address some comments from the fire marshal. So that is something that we know will still be forthcoming, but the county did say that they could still move on through this process. It would just have to be provided before we could do a building permit.
What
So,
were those issues?
they were sent in the email. There was 3 or 4 different items. Off the top of my head, I can't remember them. They were very technical, and they did, reference code in it because that was an email from Chip. So I can definitely go back and pull that info, but it was in the email for us for items they've got to provide. And then otherwise, there might be an item that could change on this, and this is sort of where I need to ask the applicant what they want to do. So our building official, Alan Alligood, he did, on site, they did remove a building and replace a building without any of the needed permitting. This was only a few days ago, so I need to know whether the applicant wants that building on their site plan, and if so, it would most likely be appropriate to table the item so it can be added. But if it's not something that they want on the site plan, then they would, not need to add it. We wouldn't need to table it. I guess it's kind of what does the applicant want to do on that, which I believe they're here. Yes, so come on up to the podium and let me know if that's something they want to add to it, because otherwise, I mean, if it is going to change the site plan, we would probably need to table it so it can be reviewed, but if it's not something they still want to add.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, my name's Chris Camere. I'm the engineer of record for the project.
Excuse me for just a second.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Walker, do we need to swear
Oh, good point.
some of the people in? Okay.
Anyone who wishes to speak on the item that's before us right now, which is SIP 24-000001, you'll stand up, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
The witness has been sworn, and also announce your name when you come to the podium.
I'm so used to saying my name when I first show up to the podium. But
Sorry
Chris
about
Camere, I'm the civil engineer and the applicant for this on behalf of Air Liquide. So I can have them come up and talk about the purpose of the specific small building they did a replacement for. I believe it was because they were just doing a swap out for like a small modular building from their standpoint. But then if we needed to be reviewed from the site plan review, because we basically had the whole site plan sort of approved except for technical documents based on hazardous materials that are stored on the site, some other things like that, along with a noise emission plan, because that's also a technical requirement in the listing from any industrial submittal. But looking at the site plan layout, we can have someone representative of the actual site in Air Liquide talk to whether or not the function of that building and whether or not it's going to be there after maybe these buildings we're asking for now are actually replacing this building. So I can have them come talk to that if you have any other issues about the site, because it's really a plain site. We're not expanding them on the limits. It was that one building that was damaged, and we're replacing it inside the same footprint as all the other facilities on the site there. So we're not moving into any setbacks or anything from that standpoint.
So I need to know more about the building that was added this week.
Understood.
Is it gonna stay, and did we just add it without even a permit or nothing?
Great question. So I can have them come and talk
Yeah.
to that point. All right?
Good afternoon, Katie Cole, representing Air Liquide with law firm of Hill Ward Henderson. So, thank you. Yes, the owners of the property replaced two existing buildings with two small buildings, and unfortunately didn't realize, independent of this process, that they should not have replaced those buildings without the permit. So in the preliminary review in anticipation of this meeting, the building official flagged that for us, so we learned of it yesterday. And yes, those buildings do intend to stay. They replaced existing uses and are proposed for new uses. They comply. We would ask that it be a condition of approval for that to be shown on this, if that's an option, Kristen, because they do comply within the setbacks and the buffer areas as shown on the site plan, and they're in the general location of where the existing buildings are on the site plan. It's just that they were replaced, and so we would ask respectfully if we could have those shown on the site plan and supplement subsequently. As you know, there was the incident last year, and the facility needs some new buildings to maintain and safely continue everything as it has been doing. And so we would really like to have the opportunity to move that forward.
I do have a question. What have you all done to prevent something like that from happening again? Because we just had, not too long ago, the property adjacent to that one across the street from the main road. And we had to really knock it down because we were concerned about putting multifamily homes in that property facing this property because of what happened. So is there any changes that are being made now with these new buildings to prevent something like that from happening, the way the materials are being stored and that kind of thing?
The new buildings are obviously constructed to current code, and that's what the subject of many of those fire comments were, with the NFPA compliance, and that they would meet all of those requirements of the code.
So, I got real concerns about moving forward with this after we just put two new buildings on there. Everybody knows you gotta have a permit to get a shed. Here you guys are doing something else that is a lot more restrictive, and you just move buildings out and put new buildings on. I mean, there's no way I can see moving this forward until that's resolved. And then if they're gonna stay, they do need to be on the site plan. Because if we do this, we're not stopping anybody else from
No,
putting a
that's
shed on their property. I mean, I don't know why they thought they could just put buildings up with no permit, especially industrial, anybody. I mean, we get people that pull permits for sheds.
Understood. When we spoke to staff yesterday, I guess, my office did, we did not know that condition or recommendation until this moment, but appreciate your concern there. And again, in an attempt to address the commissioner's concerns and try to get the site, in a modern operation, we're hoping that we can move forward tonight, but also understand if we need to delay. I don't know what that delay would look like.
So if you all tabled it tonight, it would appear at the next meeting, which is the third Monday of the month. Let me just pull up a calendar right quick. Let's see.
27th?
It would be May 20th.
Well,
So you could always have the option of tabling it. I'm a little hesitant to do a, like approval with conditions, just because I don't know where they've been placed on site. I don't know if they are compliant. Alan had mentioned he had some concerns about placement because it wasn't placed exactly where it was before. It was slightly shifted, and he was worried there wasn't enough room between buildings, because we do have a minimum for that for between buildings. So without putting eyes on it and knowing that it's compliant, I am hesitant to recommend it move forward. But we will follow whatever you guys do. Tabling's an option, and then it would just go back for revisions. They would need to add whatever buildings, so we would have the information. Whatever you all recommend we do.
If we tabled it, because I don't want to move it forward, because we don't know if it's going to meet engineering or what. If we table it, does that give them 30 days? Does that give them enough time to get the permits, get them inspected, and clear the buildings from Allen?
Well, so technically, they shouldn't even be on the building permit side of things yet. They shouldn't remove or put things on without finishing the site plan approval, because that is the first portion that comes first. You don't, it's because it's commercial, is why it has to go through that first. So
Of course.
technically, they would need to add it to the site plan. It would need to be reviewed by you all. It would need to go to commission, and only then would they be able to get their building permits. We can always talk to Alan and see what we can do regarding the buildings that were removed. I know there wasn't a demo permit. Maybe we could get a quick after the fact to make sure everything was done
Well, that, and
correctly.
I would just like to make sure that these meet all the standards for Allen
Right, yes.
in the next 30 days before we move forward with that.
Yes, I mean, they could definitely add it to the site plan and resubmit it to our office, and it could be on the next plan board meeting. It would delay them a month, but, we gotta do things right by code, so, we could do that.
In conferring with the property owner, they can remove those buildings immediately so we can move this forward, because candidly, the new buildings and the building permit process for that is much more important, and then come back with a site plan
Okay,
modification.
So like do a different site plan, they could always do that, so if they remove the buildings right now, they could continue through this current site plan process.
Do they require permits for that? To remove them?
I don't think they were fully set up. I think they were brought on site and Alan caught it and issued a stop work order. So I would have to ask him where they are in that process.
I don't think it's been cited
Yeah.
yet, but.
Yeah, I don't think
but
they've
Yesterday,
done-
he was on site and noted them.
Yeah, so basically it hasn't been set up with permits yet, so I think they could remove it. We could always involve Alan and make sure it is removed safely. And then they could come back with another site plan approval to do these other buildings.
I definitely think we should table it.
Question, are these buildings going to have electrical in them?
Yes.
So that's another permit that you're going to have to pull as
Those
well.
would, correct. They're modular buildings that have
So-
been placed there, but not yet
So,
fully operational.
sitting in front of me, or at least what Christie has given us, I mean, we don't have any information on these buildings or anything like that.
Correct, which
No
is
information.
why we said to be able to move this forward, those buildings could come off the property immediately and not be an issue with respect to this site plan.
Any comments, questions, Rick? Okay, fire away.
Were any of the people that were sworn in this evening here during the meetings that Mr. Tapanis mentioned? Were you, any of you here to hear about the concerns by the residents when the single-family homes development was going to be put in across the street? I didn't think so. But from what you're saying, you're putting a group of people between a rock and a hard place. We like to try to, be involved and contribute. I mean, I'm relatively new up here as a planning board member, but I was here for the emotional part of the people that lived across the street when the building exploded, and all that came after that. And I don't remember anybody from your group right now involved in that. You're involved in trying to move forward with a business plan and getting the, the property built. We have to just, we have to be very sensitive to the residents, the citizens, safety, the fire department, the police department. And I'm just completely baffled that you've had a major problem there. You've caused the city to ignore the possibility of having a residential community across the street, and now you've come here with, this, like, it sounds like we're supposed to believe that you weren't aware that you were supposed to do things with the permits before you came in here tonight and talked to us. So I'm lost on it personally. And personally, as one member here, I'd be willing to make a motion to say no, vote no on the motion tonight, but that's up to the rest of us.
If I may, and very respectfully, I was not here last year. My colleague and one of my partners have been here regularly several months for the past on-site, and we have 2 representatives from Air Liquide. And while I appreciate exactly what you said, this company desires to be a good neighbor, has been a good neighbor. There was an unfortunate incident. The job before you today is a very limited scope with respect to the review of your site plan and the criteria in your code as to whether this plan meets the criteria in the code. I can appreciate, because of the buildings that were placed on it, having to continue this hearing to allow those to be shown or removed, so the as-built is shown, but would respectfully ask that this board look at the criteria in the code specifically as it relates to site plan approval.
Mr. Chair, I do understand what council has just said. The zoning has already happened long ago. The building and the permitting associated with this business happened long ago. There is hazmat plans that have to be adhered to. There are a number of safety requirements, I'm sure, on multiple levels, both county and state and federal, that must be looked at and complied with by the business. Site plan approval process is somewhat of a pro forma situation. So as long as they meet the requisites of the code, as long as they're within the setbacks, and as long as those things are complied with, then typically it's a checkoff process that you go through for site plan approval. Zoning, of course, and land use is a far different animal, where you have a lot more discretion on what you can permit and not permit. But at this stage, we're kind of in the situation where we have an existing business that's been in operation for a number of years, and now they're coming back into the site plan approval process.
Understanding your hesitation with respect to that after the structures that are currently there, I think we'd be happy to continue this item for a month to show that on the plan, so we can bring that back and have that here. And we could respectfully request that you do that tonight.
I would like to see if any of the other representatives from, that are here now would like to speak on behalf of this. I'm hearing you, but you're what, the law firm handling this firm?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any input that you guys think you can put forward when it comes to our concerns?
I think that hopefully you can appreciate that there's still some ongoing litigation matters, and there's also some ongoing OSHA issues based on the
No,
incident
that's
from
fine.
last May.
That was just a question.
And-
If they wanted to stand up and say something, that's fine.
And so I think we've all talked a lot about it, and talked to the fire marshal, to the county, to your staff and your team. You can see the requirements with respect to the safety plans and everything, which have been produced and have actually been various places, so.
And I get all that.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that, but we also sitting here and we've been thrown this, and we're looking at the fact that there's still, you're saying everything about the whole safety part and everything else, but there was things done incorrectly. That's the bottom line.
The placement of the two buildings, yes.
They were done incorrectly and they need to be corrected.
Correct.
So I think we need to table this probably and let you guys fix all these problems.
That one problem, yes.
And I agree with you, Steve. And the problem is we've been experiencing this quite a bit in this community, that people are doing things without pulling the permit.
Understood. Like I said, absolutely, that was, if you all would like to move to continue, we would certainly accept that and see you next month.
That's the way because I think it needs to be tabled and let Alan come back to us saying the buildings have been removed, and then they're added to the site plan, and then we move forward on that one.
Okay.
We'll go to check the audience first before we make a motion.
Thank you.
Yes. Is there somebody from the audience that would like to speak?
Good evening.
Developer on that property.
I'm here for another item, but I would like to just make a couple comments and ask a question of the applicant, if I may. My name is Clay Sweger, and I'm a land planner here in Alachua County. Our firm represented the developer and property owner of the potential residential development across the street. And as some of y'all remember, it was a tough meeting, a lot of discussion. We walked into a situation with a local business that had a situation that frankly, I was not aware of. And then, obviously there was some community interest, to say the least. So our project is still in flux, mainly, I believe, because of the discussion of compatibility with this property and the neighborhoods to the east and Air Liquide to the west. And as we testified in the hearing, we didn't believe that we were incompatible with those industrial uses. My client, the property owner, would still feel that way and state that tonight, provided that they would agree that us as a residential project on the other side of the road with an ample buffer would not be incompatible with their use. I think there's a potential for everyone to be able to be successful and bring something forward. But I wanted to make that comment and ask that question of them, if they would be kind enough to respond. And if there's anything you need from me as far as any questions being answered just from the neighbor across the street, I'd be glad to do that.
I mean, just to give you a heads up, even if you brought that in front of us again, with that being across the street, and we find out that everything is like okay, and they have the right buffers and all that, then it'd be something to consider. But I still don't feel comfortable putting a bunch of families in front of that shop. I just don't. I mean, me personally. But, and I do it not because of my personal thing. I'm saying it because it's a safety factor. We all saw what happened, and we have to look out for the citizens of High Springs and the unknown people, because those will be rental units, the unknown people coming in and moving in there, not knowing what happened to that plant, a year prior to them moving in. And, if there's some residual effects from that, we don't want those families to suffer from that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that we had the discussion we did with you when you brought that in front of us.
I completely respect your position, and I wanted to relay my client property owner's position as well.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
And we appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any more discussion up here?
I'll make a motion on it. Go for it. I make a motion that we table SIP 24-000001.
Can we modify it to make sure that Alan Elligood gets us the information that the buildings have been moved and they're on the site plan, if that's the way they decide to go? Do we need to modify it like that?
Well, I mean, it has to be added, which is why you're tabling.
It's gotta be added, yeah, it's gotta be added to the site plan, and they need to be removed in permits, with the permits.
I will follow up with Alan and, see if we can get him at the next meeting to talk about it and make sure we have everything.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think my microphone is actually malfunctioning, so I'm gonna grab the other one.
Well, if that's the motion on the table now, I'd second. I'm seconding the motion.
Put that down, and then do a roll call. Hopefully this microphone works a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear on this one? Okay. All right, so seconded by Testa. So Steve DePonis,
Yes.
Brad Riddle,
Yes.
Tim Bolliger,
Yes.
Rick Testa,
Yes.
and Mark Rotacci's absent.
We didn't need to
So
put a
4-0.
date in there, it just automatically goes to the next meeting, correct?
Yeah, you
Okay.
guys tabled it to the May meeting?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
yes. It'll be on May, I believe I said the 20th?
20th, I believe.
I will double check, but it's our usual third Monday of the month. Yes, it's the 20th.
May I just ask a
You may.
clarification, please, Mr. Chair? Thank you. Hearing your motion, just wanted to clarify, the structures would be removed, and they could either be shown if they're intended to stay there, or not shown if they're not intended to stay. I just wanted to be clear, because I think they'll make a decision on whether they would bring them back ever.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and then when would staff need if they decide they would like them, when would you need the revised site plan?
Well, as soon as they're ready, but otherwise, my agenda goes out the week prior to the
Thank you.
meeting, so just week
Prior-
back, yes.
Okay, 2 weeks.
I mean, just get together with Alan Allengood, our inspector, and I'm sure he'll point you in the right direction.
Correct. I just wanted to be sure that
Yeah.
the staff had time to review it sufficiently to get it back to you for May 20th. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and we appreciate y'all's cooperation with us as well.
We
really
appreciate
do.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We know it was an impactful year for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Chair, have a good night.
All righty,
Night.
thank y'all.
It's historic, what am I doing?
All righty, the third item on the agenda is SIP 24000003, minor replat Sawyer.
This one's pretty straightforward. So basically, it's in two parts right now. It's two different parcels, and it's being combined into one. It's also, since it's being replat, we're getting rid of all those really small lots from back in the, 1895 or whatnot when it was originally platted. I know it's an early one. It's like early 1900s that it was platted. But anyways, this will get rid of those old plot lines. It'll be one usable commercial site. You will be seeing the site plan here shortly. It'll be an Anytime Fitness, but that'll be at most likely the next meeting as long as they can respond to comments. Staff has no issues with this one. It's a very straightforward minor plat.
Questions from the board members?
I don't have any. It's pretty straightforward.
The only question I did have, because I couldn't find it earlier, is it's on here as Comer Street. What's the number?
It does not have one. It was never constructed. It's just that very old plat. It had a lot of named roads. They were never open, never constructed.
And I see all the right-of-ways inside have been vacated, so the city has nothing in there.
Correct, yes. They vacated those a couple months prior, when they started working on this. They did leave one just in case, I believe it's on the south end of it. I'll have to double check. But basically, they left one there just in case something is constructed and that we need that access. So there's one remaining in there, but it's not the small alleyways.
Is there anybody from the public that wanted to speak to this?
Motion we approve SIP 24-00.
I second.
Christie, it's been,
Rick
Versus.
Testa,
Yes.
Steve Topanis,
Yes.
Brad Riddle,
yes.
Tim Bolliger.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All righty, last item on the plan board agenda is ZRQ 24000001, Bridlewood Community Development District.
So this is the Bridlewood CDD. I'm actually going to let the applicant talk about this one if they'd like to come up, because it's a little technical. So this is that special district that Bridlewood had talked about putting there. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Jarrett Earlywine. I'm with QTAC Rock. We've got Kelly and I think Chris are here from Bridlewood, and obviously Chris is our engineer too for the project. I think y'all are probably familiar with the project. It's just off US 41 and south of 174th. The project's, I think, designed for about 474 homes, and we've got about $33 million worth of public infrastructure. The community development district itself is essentially, it's a lot like a homeowners association. It can just do more things for you. On the front end, the city will go out and issue tax-exempt bonds and use that bond money to basically build the public infrastructure. And it saves money. It allows us to put in a better quality project and still have competitive home pricing. And then residents also can take advantage of that later because they'll take over that board just like they would a homeowners association. And when they need to refurbish their stormwater ponds or redo the roads or whatnot, they can access that same tax-exempt bond market, save themselves money then. Not only is it a great financing mechanism on the front end, but it's also just a much better operation and maintenance entity than an HOA because, you know, just like an HOA, the developer populates the board in the early years, but the residents take over actually a little earlier than an HOA board would later on. And when they're on that board, they're able to collect on the tax roll. Unlike an HOA, they've got sovereign immunity protection. They can get FEMA funding. They're subject to, they've got sovereign immunity protection, and they're also just a more transparent entity because they're subject to sunshine laws and public records laws and other things like that. And so it helps us maintain the property values better over time. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the petition if y'all have them.
So under the petition to establish a community development district, and please bear with me because I'm not an expert in any of
Sure.
this stuff. So under number 4, initial board members, it talks about 5 persons designated to serve as initial members of the board of supervisors of the proposed district are as follows. And it says that their state of Florida, the residents of the state of Florida and citizens of the United States of America. Now, is that group of 5 people throughout the state of Florida, or is like one of those persons from High Springs, or just explain to me what's kind of going on
Yeah.
there.
All they're doing there is they're just appointing, you know, if you just had a homeowner association, you know, the developer appoints who goes on the HOA board in the beginning. And that's all they're doing in this petition as well. The statute says that in the early years, they have to be U.S. citizens and also be permanent residents of the state of Florida. Later on, you know, there's elections every 2 years and the seats are staggered. But as they sell over 50% of the property, those seats can get turned over to other landowner representatives, and eventually they're going to be turned over to residents of that community. And of course, they have to be residents, 18 years of age, U.S. citizens, that sort of thing.
I thought where maybe it was going.
Yes, sir.
So how is this funded?
So,
Once it's turned over, everything?
yeah, so it's just like a homeowner association would put their own assessments on the, you know, on the residents. That's how the HOA works. The CDD is the same thing. They will levy an annual operation and maintenance assessment. There's a hearing process they got to go through and tell the residents.
So it doesn't affect the property taxes?
Doesn't affect your all's property taxes at all. Now, the assessments, unlike the HOA dues, do get collected on the tax roll. And so just like you've got like a fire district or something like that, you'd have the CDD on there. But it's just a different collection mechanism. A lot of cities and counties have actually started to require communities to have a special taxing district on them because the HOAs were coming back to the cities and counties, especially after the Great Recession, and saying, hey, we can't take care of our roads, we can't take care of our stormwater ponds because we got to put liens on individual houses, which is super inefficient. The HOA model just isn't that great. And so CDs are a much better option because they can actually collect on the tax roll, but they're not collecting the taxes. They're not. It's not an obligation of the city or anything like that. It's just a different collection mechanism for those assessments.
So I got a couple questions.
Sir.
the city will still be doing all the inspections, correct?
That's correct. Think of I mean, it's really a lot like a
As
homeowner.
far as all your
Yeah.
construction and
Yeah, we won't,
Okay,
the
inspections.
CDD can't do any zoning, it can't issue its own permits, it can't do inspections, it can't operate a police force. It's a very limited form of.
Now, under Exhibit 5, we have proposed facilities and estimated cost charts.
Yes, sir.
So the CDD pretty much owns all the stormwater, the roads, underground conduit, landscaping, but when we get to potable water, reclaimed water, wastewater, the CDD owns it, but the city is maintenance in it. Is doing the maintenance, so
Yeah.
what happens there when we have a significant problem? Because number one, the CDD owns it, but the city's doing the maintenance on it.
So just a point of clarification on that, the CDD is the developer of the utilities, but we turn over the ownership and the maintenance to the city
Okay.
as soon as we're done with it.
Well, that's
Just-
why I was
Just
like,
like a
'cause it
regular
says
development.
that CDD owns it in here, but the city's maintenance.
We can clarify that
Okay.
in a revision to the petition,
And
if that's
then
helpful.
the only other thing I had in there is the CDD was paying for everything under the estimated cost, except for the water and the wastewater I thought I saw, for like 13 million. I just want to make sure that's not being pushed on the city.
No, sir. The installation would all be handled by the CDD. I don't know if there's a footnote or typo or something in there, but it should all be a CDD line item for financing
Okay.
purposes. Yes,
I'll
sir.
go back and find that page, and I got notes over here I'm trying to go by.
There's two places it could show up, but Exhibit 5 would be the first place, so we'll take a look at that.
That's what I got on my notes, but I just saw something in Exhibit 6, I think, on it.
Okay, all right, well, maybe I've got a typo in there too.
And we're only talking about the first plot right now, right?
Well, it's the 244 acres, so if there's another phase to it, I'm not aware of it, but
There should be, what, 4 of them, right?
you'll have,
5? I have 5 and I have 4.
okay. Well, I'm starting with the 244 acres is what I'm working on.
Now I gotta see where I found that other page.
But we'll get it clarified either way. I understand your comment.
It was on table 1, I found it. It was funded by, owned by, and then maintained by. But then on, so it does have you guys funding it, so. there.
Okay.
So it
You're
just
talking
has
about
us as
the-
maintaining it.
You're in Exhibit 8, the CERC, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, sir. We'll take a look at
So,
that.
okay. It's my first time dealing with a CDD.
Understood.
Never dealt with one. so-
Understood. Ask
Yeah.
all the questions you want. That's what I'm here for.
I don't have any more questions on that myself.
How's the city feel?
Wrong microphone on. No specific comments from the city. When it was reviewed by Site Plan Review Committee, there was no comments issued. So no issues at this time.
I would tell you too, there's over 1,000 of these in Florida now, and over across the entire country, 87% of the homes that are sold in master plan communities have a special taxing district. And it's because it's just a more efficient model on the front end, and it's a better operation and maintenance entity. I was down in Homestead not too long ago, talking with the city there about a new community, and 2 of the city council members actually lived in a CDD. They were the biggest advocates. They just, and you can go back and listen to the tape, they said it maintains our property values better.
So with the CDD, they don't pay a homeowner association, they pay it on their taxes.
Yeah, it depends
Or
on
you
how the
still do
community's
both?
set up. The CDD doesn't have the power to do architectural control, so they'll usually have a small HOA as well. And that's what we're anticipating for this one, just to do the architectural
Is
control.
there any in north central Florida? that
There are, yeah, there's 4 in Alachua County right now. You got Finley Woods, Parker Road, Celebration, I can't remember if that's right.
Oakmont,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Just curious, like I
Yes,
said,
sir.
it's fairly new to me.
Totally new to me.
Yeah, and see, all those 4 are all brand new, or newer subdivisions.
they are, yes, sir. Any other
Rick,
questions I
do
can
have
answer
any
for you?
questions for him?
All right. We appreciate your questions and happy to be working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, will you remind me of something? Because Rick, we didn't have him swear it in. When we swear people in, do we have to do it for each item on the agenda, or can everybody be sworn in at once? Because I thought we did it all at once.
You can do it all at once, that's acceptable.
And I'm happy to be sworn in if y'all, I forgot about that as well.
I think we're all right.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we normally did in the past, so not my mistake.
Questions from the audience?
Any questions from the audience? All right, I need a motion up here.
I make a motion, we pass ZRQ 24-000001.
I second.
Brad Riddle,
Yes.
Tim Bolliger,
Yes.
Rick Testa,
No.
Steve Topanis.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
When can we get out of all the zeros?
Never.
I wish I could. It's automatically put in the
When we get a
system.
one up here, then
All right, I need a motion on the floor to close the plan board meeting at 7:21 PM.
I motion that we close the plan board meeting at 7:21 PM on April 15th.
Second.
All right.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you
All right.
very much. Appreciate it.
All righty. Now we'll call to order at 7:22, the High Springs Historic Preservation Board. And we don't need to do a roll call. Need approval for the last month's minutes on the Historic Board.
I make a motion, we approve March 18, 2024 minutes.
Second.
Tim Bolliger,
Yes.
Rick Testa,
Yes.
Steve Topanis, Brad Riddle.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All righty. We have two items on the agenda this evening. First of all, any of the applicants that are going to speak on it tonight, I need you to be sworn in, please. Anybody going to speak?
Stand up and raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? I do. This has all been sworn.
All righty. Thank you. All right, the first item of business is Z 24000023, Certificate of Appropriateness, Pediatrics Clinic Expansion.
So, as you said, they are the pediatrics clinic that exists right now, and they are expanding. They have made it so that their building looks a lot like the existing building. So, staff is really finding no issues. It will match what is out there currently, and you all will be seeing the site plan not too long from now. I'm assuming maybe next month, maybe the month after, depending on how quick they move. But you guys will review that part at that time. This is just for what it looks like
Okay.
and where it's placed too. But no issues from staff.
Big drawing, 2 pages.
That's the,
We have a small, yeah.
yeah.
Give them just a second to look at the big drawing.
This is the existing, so, what used to be Dr. Edwards.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there we
All
go.
right.
Hey, okay, there you
I
go.
will let you speak, sir. Identify yourself, please.
That's perfect.
No, that's good. Yeah.
My name is Andrew Kaplan. I'm the architect for the project. And it's an unusual situation because usually the Preservation Board is looking at buildings that are from the last century or the early part of the 1900s. And now we're looking at kind of mid-century modern buildings. which qualify for preservation because they are, I believe the rule is they're over 50 years old. So in order to blend with those buildings, we wanted to do a building that's a little more updated, but it has the same flat roof, the same strong fascia, the same glazing at the entrance areas, the same horizontal window band, and the same brick as the existing buildings. It's as closely as we can match them. We just tried to make the shape just a little bit more interesting. And it is a little different because the buildings that are there now are set way back from the street, and this building will be set right up on the street as the new buildings are required to be. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Mr. Swager is the engineer, if you have any questions for him.
I'd like to, just again, just to get caught up, the parking areas for this particular structure on here. How many parking spots and where is the parking area? It's not in our drawing, I'm sorry.
I'll let Clay answer that.
Good evening again, Clay Swager with EDA Consultants.
Right there next to the building.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the
between
front door. The front door is on this side.
Gotcha. And this is the end of the little, it's going to be here,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
okay.
Isn't the old
Thank you.
out,
He just answered the question for
Okay.
me, thank you.
Yeah, we're adding some parking spaces in the parking lot there. We're gonna use the same driveway on 441. And this building will be brought up to the street, which is what the Historic Overlay District calls for, which I think will be actually really nice. And so the parking won't be between the street and the building. And I think Andy's done a really nice job to take what's a kind of an ordinary mid-century modern building and bring something forward with a little bit more character, but still in keeping with the area. We were actually a little surprised that we were in the Historic Overlay and working with Christy. She informed us we're right on the edge. So as Andy mentioned, this is a little different than maybe we're talking about an old home or something here in the core of the district, but we do need to comply with all the regulations as such. And we will come back to you with a site plan shortly. I wanted to include the site plan just so you could get a sense of where the building is in relation to the property and the street.
On the drawing we have here now is, do you have, when you build this new office building, do you have to add a new grinder pump? 'Cause I see two of them are being shown on here.
The plan is to connect to the existing pump and the existing sewer lines on the property.
The existing building is staying, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
question, if you're doing that, so the owner that owns the existing building owns this property?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And those grinder pumps, you know for sure, are capable of handling the two buildings? Because I know they're rated for the amount of usage that they get.
We have had a conversation with Public Works here at the city to ask, and we had a pre-application meeting with them, and they indicated that it would not be problematic to connect to that system. By and large, offices are relatively low generators of sewage flow, and compared to some of the other things you might see, like a restaurant or other uses. So we have gotten confirmation with them that it would be acceptable.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The only other comment I had under the general notes on your drawing,
Yes.
probably a generic drawing to a point, but your comments, number 3, it says electric service to be coordinated with GRU Electric Engineering Department. I don't think GRU services is here in High Springs.
That would be a feat for having GRU to, no, I'm sorry, that is a typo on that conceptual plan.
See, I read the
GRU will not be
notes.
serving
I may
electric.
have to use a magnifying glass, but I do read the notes.
Thank you.
I got a question. I like this building. What does that one look like, the other one that's on that property?
It's,
I think the last page of your backup,
Yeah.
there is a photo.
I think.
So I know Andy could speak more to it, but he matched the roof line and the brick materials and actually added some more windows than what's on that building.
Well, I'm looking at this part here, and that's what I thought, because I live right near this. So the front facade of this building, the soffit, to say, the way it's built and it has that upper line on top, doesn't really match that.
The existing building has a canopy that
And
was
that's what I'm getting at.
added to the building, and we're not trying to match that because it's not a permanent element. That can go away, tomorrow. So we tried to match the elements of the building that are permanent structure.
No, I understand that, but we also got to look at the visual look, that the one that's already existing appears, and now this one going next to it, it'll look like two different buildings.
We tried to update a little bit. Those buildings look a little old and tired.
No, I understand that.
So, but we
You guys see what I'm saying?
May I interject on that?
didn't think it was appropriate to try to match the canopy that, might not be there next week.
The last meeting we had, remember the conversation we had in the last planning meeting about where this board's considering those awnings and different types of overhangs and structures that have been attached to the buildings. We haven't come to a conclusion yet on any of that, as far as I know. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
No, we haven't.
So,
We have nothing in writing, let's put it that way.
Steve, I see what you're looking at there, but I agree with the gentleman here that is a facade, that awning, and it might fall under that question we've had in the past about how, in the future, how are we going to address the awning? So are they all going to be standard? And I think Bruce said something about canvas and colors and things. So does that help address that?
Well, I guess what I'm worried about is, again, the building looks fantastic. I mean, I don't mind looking at this there in City High Springs, but what I'm worried about is you're placing this catty corner to the other building, and if it's one shopping center, in my opinion, it should all look the same.
And from what the gentleman said, I would look through this awning, and you would see, I see exactly the same thing, or very similar structure.
Okay, so what are you telling me? They're gonna remove the awning?
Well, that's the question we had during the last meeting. Can-
Right.
If
And that's where I'm stuck.
Well, we
anybody,
don't know whether they'll remove it or not, but it's like the gentleman said, it can go away any day.
And the only thing, I agree, the difference of the buildings, I'm gonna consider this an out parcel. You know what happens when you have a strip mall with out parcel, it's totally different. Because they're not connected. If they were connected, I'd be 100% against it, because they're too far different. But being it's more on an out parcel.
Right, and I get where you guys are
Yeah.
coming from.
Is that awning canvas on that building? I don't remember. I thought it was. I thought it was.
I believe so. Could I also add that that's only part of that building? And I don't know exactly what your photo shows, but if you're looking at that building, to the left-hand side is the pharmacy that does not have the canopy, and it
Correct.
goes around the corner and does not have the canopy.
Yeah.
And that's my exact point,
Right.
is that you'll have no canopy, and then no canopy again.
Right. So it's kind of bookends the existing building.
Yeah.
and we have that downtown. I was, after the meeting last month.
Oh, no,
I
we
went
have it.
downtown, and there was canvas and metal and black and brown and all these, which is.
Christie, how does the city feel about that?
About them potentially having or not
The way the
having a
building,
canopy?
the placement of the building and,
We're fine with the placement of the building. It does meet the requirements for the setbacks. No issue on whether it has or has no canopy on it. The architecture they've done, it does match the building itself, so, and if they wanted to add a canopy, they would have to come back and see y'all, so it will get caught either way.
I'm good.
I'd really like to see us address that eventually, down the road, to get either a standard.
I think it's a
or-
little out of control, to be honest.
Well, we gotta get an ordinance, but
An
that's something
ordinance.
we need to talk about after.
Later on.
Yeah, after.
That's what I agree on that, but again, as far as I'm concerned, his structure, his architectural rendering works for me.
Works for me as well.
Motion?
I'd make a motion to, let's see, where's my paper here? I've lost my.
Here, just use that number right there, Rick,
There you go.
second one. I
No,
mean, the first one.
First one. I make a motion to accept, under new business, Z 24000023, certificate of appropriateness for the pediatric clinic. Thank you.
Second.
Steve Tapanis,
Yes.
Brad Riddle,
Yes.
Tim Bolliger,
Yes.
Rick Testa.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, looks really great. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Michael. Well, we got two gentlemen.
Then there were
left in
two.
the audience. Last but not least.
you throw some candy at him. Like, oh, coming from them.
All righty.
Let me guess, you're here about the Honeybees Ventures thing.
Yep, the last item, Z 24000024, certificate of appropriateness.
So,
Honeybee Ventures facade improvements, and they've already been sworn in.
yes, we're excited about this project. It is downtown in one of our red brick buildings, which they are going to be preserving. I did give you guys a little bit of follow-up information about that kind of that nook area with the differing bricks after I talked to the applicant. Their awning, currently I believe it's green and it's going to be going black, which matches the awning item that you guys did last time. So no issues anticipated there. Our applicants are obviously here if you have any technical questions for them or about their vision for it. I did add in that little bit of extra info that had to do with, right now there's some siding that's on there, the part that's not brick, and it's like this dark reddish color, and it has a little bit of white at the top, that siding slash, I guess you would call it columns. So that is where I gave you the extra pictures. That was their vision for what it wants to look like. No issues from staff. We're happy that they're not, attempting to paint over the bricks or anything like that. It is preserving, and very excited to see the old soda shop machine come back online.
So that's what this used to be, right?
Yeah, it used to be an old soda shop, so they're really bringing it on back.
What did we approve?
Showed us this place, and we saw that soda fountain inside, so we gotta do
You're
something.
about to ask the same question.
What did we approve last meeting? Just the awning?
That's what we were talking.
Well, what I was referencing was that you guys did some awnings it was for different buildings. So you guys haven't
Well, I
seen.
thought that building was involved in it.
No, it was the
They
building
had-
across the street.
So you guys did approve
'Cause we
something
brought
for
the
them.
old soda shop up, that's why I was thinking that.
Yes, it was the
Because-
roof. The roof.
The
They
roof,
redid the
it was
roof.
the roof, that's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that was during that meeting. We
I
had
thought
like
there was something there.
So,
it had a lot of items on that meeting. But yes, you
Yeah.
guys looked at the roof,
Okay.
and then nearby was the other awnings
Correct,
that.
yeah, I just knew there was something for that building, but I couldn't
Yes,
remember
yes,
what.
they redid the roof.
Okay.
We're doing the roof and the copings and the drainage.
Yes.
did they put in a black awning?
Um, so-
A black awning? Did they do the black awning?
No, the awning is just getting painted, that's been on there.
I know, but are they painting it black?
We will be.
Yes,
Okay.
it's going to match those other ones
good.
that you guys
We wanna-
did.
Exactly. What they're covering the brick columns now, we basically just want to build it out and make it, the same color and cohesive.
Okay. So
Works
it
for
all-
me.
The brick will all be same, and then we're getting the new windows and doors.
Yeah, new windows,
which are
new
black
doors,
frame.
and then that siding area.
Yeah.
And so far, staff sees no issues on this project. Looks like it's gonna be kind of going back to what it used to be.
I am gonna go in there and try those soda things out though, okay?
I'm excited to start experimenting with it all.
I'm excited to have
Did
it
they
come
leave
to
the old
house.
equipment in there?
They did.
Because some of that stuff is really old,
We're
isn't it?
trying to take it all apart and see if we can use it, otherwise we did find another very old one
Yeah.
that we bought and shipped in from Michigan.
I probably went in there, it was probably 8-9 years ago.
Oh, yeah, it's been, how do you put it, just been left in that state for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to thank you all for putting everything you did in this package.
Yes.
Because usually we got a lot of questions we can't answer, but you had everything covered.
Yep, I had no questions on this one.
That's fine. We're excited to have the old shop come back.
We're killing trees, bro.
Your introductory letter also, that was appreciated by a lot of people that received that initially. I just read it today for the first time, but interesting.
Yeah.
You got enough going on.
It's very helpful
Yeah.
having all that, you know, and knowing about it.
All righty, we need them. Need a motion.
I'll motion it.
I'd make a motion to move forward with Z 24000024 as presented here this evening. Appropriateness of the Honeybee Ventures.
Second,
Tim Bolliger,
yes.
Rick Testa,
Yes.
Steve Topanis,
Yes.
Brad Riddle.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
You know, you were the fastest one and they left you for last, you know?
We're used to it.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Thank you very
Look
much.
forward to y'all's opening. So before I adjourn this meeting, let's address what Rick brought up. What are we gonna do about these awnings? Are we gonna?
That is
Staff.
completely up to you guys what you want to do. I do want to have some sort of workshop this year because we had previously talked about having, potentially a workshop. Now that we have our city manager online, I definitely like to have him involved in whatever we do moving forward. Unfortunately, there was just he had another item come up tonight, so he wasn't able to be at the meeting, even though he had planned to. So, yeah, I'll have him at the next one. No, for sure, for sure.
Well, then let's try to get something.
Yeah, I definitely,
Do we need to put it on the agenda for next month?
to
Talk
do.
about it, or?
You want? Yeah, I can definitely put it on the agenda to talk about, and then I would like to have some sort of
Yeah,
workshop
but we can
eventually.
talk about
but-
it and come up with a plan.
Yeah,
Well,
and then we can
I
have it
think
written.
Her idea of the workshop is good.
Oh, absolutely,
Because
for sure.
that allows us to say, okay, this one's this color, we can do a little research of our own and find which one of these awnings, are really oddball compared to the others. I mean, this building that we just approved, that awning to me doesn't make sense with the whole layout, but that's me. But it gives us time to look through all the awnings and colors and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's not just awnings that I want you guys to look at this year. We definitely want to look at the code as a whole for the district. I know we've been having some issues with like paint colors and fences and things. I'd like to iron out some details if at all possible, if that's the direction you all want to go in, because our criteria has been a little subjective, and I want to kind of shore that up and better. I want the citizens to be able to know what they're applying for and what should be approved, and not just have it be like it might be approved kind of thing.
Right.
I want them to kind of know what they're getting into with
And
this.
it's gonna make your job easier.
It
and it's
would.
gonna make things easier for us as well.
I'd also like to better clarify this year what is administrative versus going to the board. We've kind of just, big changes we've brought to you, anything changing colors we've brought to you, but staff can help with things. So if you want to define a certain set of colors that are automatically approved, we can always do that. Because right now it's really like for like changes or minor repairs we do. It's really just going to be up to you all what direction you want to go in. Because I don't want to have to bring every little item to you, because it does make people sometimes wait a whole month. So say somebody applied for something today, they would have to wait until May 20th in order to get it approved, and sometimes that's just such a long wait to get something looked at. So yeah, this year I'd like to really kind of look at what we're doing in the historic side of things.
Sounds great.
So, Mr. Walker, we're not gonna be crossing anything by coming up with an awning ordinance, correct?
No, I think you've given a pretty good sense to Christie of what you're looking for, which is, you can have a somewhat uniform style and color and that sort of thing. And then, I think Rick said it at the last meeting, well, maybe we don't want everything to be uniform. Maybe we come in with something, and I think you can have an exception. You can say, certain instances, we want to, maybe it doesn't fit the style, the rhythm, and all of that sort of thing. The beautiful thing about historic districts is that you have so much discretion on what you can permit, allow, and not permit. I bet you that the awning on the doctor's building never went before the.
I bet
Oh,
you
it's
are probably
a lot of
right.
the-
It's been up there a long time,
Yeah.
too.
A lot of the awnings haven't, because there's such a variety.
And the problem that you had was not with the structure when you put it on the awning.
Correct.
It didn't match the room.
Well, you know, you look at a boxy building, and that's generally what that looked like to me. It was very boxy. The building all the way to the left is very boxy, and then you had a boxy building with an angle on the front of it that just didn't make sense. So, yeah, we'll definitely work it out.
I
And
have a
theirs is a bit
question.
of an outlier because they are right on the edge and they're also a more modern building. They aren't the ones that are downtown. So a little bit of a weird
Yeah,
outlier.
I would
Question
never
on-
approve that for downtown.
No, and they are right on the edge. They're in what's called they're the downtown development district overlay, which has the same rules for the certificates of appropriateness.
Now, they're not using any IG units on those storefronts. They're gonna be facing the hot time of day, so they're ready for that.
You have a comment or a question?
I have a question about procedure. When the planning board discusses something, to me, when I left the last month and went up and down Main Street and First Street, what used to be First Street, to see all the awnings, I mean, I've been here 25 years. I wasn't aware of the variety. So to me, it seems like a really big project to decide on something that's written and accepted by all the people, the citizens, the businesses. Is this something that you would defer to the commission or also include the commission? And as far as an overall discussion, because it's going to cost business owners money, it may affect some people's sensibilities. I don't know how far things like this.
I don't think we would
Do you have-
make everybody change.
No, you
We
can't.
would
You
do-
couldn't.
No,
we
but
would
does
just-
this board have the discretionary ability to
Well, it
have
has to get
something?
approved by the commission.
Yeah, so if you're adding it to the code, the commission
Yeah,
will
the
see it.
commission
So
would
it'll be
vote
part of the land
also on
development
it?
code.
Okay, thank
and
you. That's all.
They'll vote on it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and it wouldn't be, all right, this is in you, everybody got to change their awning. As
Right.
they had to replace them. would
Then they
be-
bring it to.
Then it would.
Right,
go
they
to-
would come into
so we could have
compliance.
this same look we got now for another 20 years.
I can see that.
Or, you know, depending.
And each and
Or
every.
a hurricane come through and rip all the awnings off, then everybody's got to get new ones. I mean, it just facts of life.
Anything else?
Big project.
All right, it is, right now, 7:47. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting April 15th at
7:47.
7:47.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?